mean, really. Because have we actually seen the real Jason? I don't know.
The layers and layers.
Layers and layers of Jason, I wonder.
Which one?
Well, that's it. There's so many, right?
Just keeps getting more and more decayed.
Yeah, it gets older, like the rest of us.
Even me, even dead.
Even Jason decays.
Decays.
Pretty soon he'll be stocking the Crystal Lake retirement home.
There you go. That's if Sean and Victor don't get it together, that's going to be the next sequel. The nursing home.
Crystal Lake retirement home,
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All good campers go to die.
Amen. Welcome to Chicago.
Thank you. It's been a long time since I've been to Chinatown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has been a while, at least 5 or 6 years. Nephew moved here pre-pandemic for, he graduated and got a job as an engineer in Chicago, and we're all very excited. So I finally get to see him tomorrow night. So that's been a long, long time. But Stacy, all of you know Stacy, my manager, she is the coolest lady in the world, because I said to her last night, I said, I have this picture of my nephew. He was probably 3 years old, I'm maybe 5 years old. It's early 90s, Weekend of Horrors, when there were only maybe 25 people at the Weekend of Horrors, back when conventions weren't even conventions, you know, and it was in LA. And I said, and there was this picture of him, and he's, well, now he's 30 something, and he was like 3 years old, and he's standing next to me on a chair, I think, and we both got our Weekend of Horror shows. Stacy pulled that picture up. She had it in her phone.
Oh.
I mean, she is amazing. She's crazy. But anyway, so I'm gonna get a picture of him tomorrow night and make sure we have the t-shirts on. Right?
That's amazing.
30 years later, right? Crazy how long it's been going on.
Yeah, and also, can you imagine, like, did you ever imagine horror conventions would be a thing?
No, I mean, they kind of evolved, didn't they? They just,
Yeah.
you know, they started out real, I mean, the first time I ever went to anything was right across from Penn Station in New York City, and it had to be the early 90s, and Tony Timpone called me up, and directly and said, you know, would you like to join, like Tommy Savini's gonna be there, and I said, sure, and I think Kane might have been there too, but it was just a couple of us, and I have this Polaroid picture or some picture where literally like everybody at the convention is in one room, and there's like maybe 30 people. That's how it started, you know. But I don't think anybody charged for any autographs, but I think we were just as surprised and happy as you all were there. That came around when people finally realized, it's a business, like everything else, it's a business.
Well, it's a business, and it's dreams come true.
Well,
That's for us especially.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I started watching horror movies when I was 8 years old, and that was 30 years ago. Okay, if you had told me in 1990 I would get to meet you ever in my life, I'd be like, nuh-uh.
And
Where? Huh?
And there I was hiding under a rock. You know, without social media, who knew?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until what I call the Bible, the Crystal Lake Memories book, Peter Brackey unearthed me. It took a lot of unearthing. Because I was just doing voiceovers and looping and very cool things. And I can plug the audiobook at this point. Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. I did the audiobook for that, 13 hours if you have nothing to do someday in a long drive. It was a very cool experience, because I thought when I signed up for it, I was just doing one voice, the narrator, and it's like, no, you're doing everybody. So wow, that was intense, but I think I pulled it off. I had no choice. I had no say about it. I was 6 months old. I had a very bored mother, I guess, who was probably looking for, additional income. And we lived right outside of New York City. And she said, "You went to strangers very easily." Is that a good thing? I don't know. And you didn't cry. It's like, a very strange child. But anyway, that's how I started. Was in commercials at 6 months old. And she threw my sister in it and my brother too, but they were like, don't want anything to do with this. And I just, I grew up in it because I actually enjoyed, when I finally knew what I was doing, I enjoyed the family aspect of being on a set, and that's really what it came to. Because my mom, little did we know at the time, she was manic depressive, so, you know, you kind of have to go elsewhere, and as a kid, it's like, there it is out there, and you're kind of drawn to that energy, and so I got the best of the situation. My brother and sister opted out and went to actual school, and I would do that, whatever I had to do to get through, as long as I kept my average up, and I did, and so I worked all through school and all through high school, and I went to FIT in New York City, and the Guiding Light was around the corner, so I got in on a fine arts scholarship, but pretty soon thereafter my professor said, Adrienne, now we know you can paint, and we know you've been sneaking out to do some jobs and whatever, but you gotta really focus. Focus on one thing, and it's the best advice he gave to me, and I can give to any young person out there. It's like, you know, find your passion and just do whatever it takes to get there, because eventually you will if you're persistent enough. But if you're multi-focused, it's kind of splits all your energies around. And he said you'll always be able to paint. God bless him. He was right. I still can paint. And as a matter of fact, with the pandemic, I spent an entire year in my studio, which was, I know it sounds strange, but it was heaven. You know, I had no guilt about painting, because in the back of my mind, I can still hear my grandmother going, you need a real job. You can't be a starving actress and a starving painter, you know, a starving actress and a starving actor, you know, whatever. So I got to paint all last year, and my paintings are on the labels, and I have so much fun with the wine labels, creating them, and the different, you know, the different cute little names and everything like that. But that's how I started. I was thrown into it, and then I learned that I was actually decent at it, you know. And then when I got to a certain age, when I was 8 years old, my mom actually said, if you really want to do this, we're gonna find the best acting teacher for you, or coach. And I studied with two of the best people in New York City as a child. And then I went on and studied at Rada in London, and I studied with William Esper at the Neighborhood Playhouse. But it was definitely an involvement. And by the time I was graduated college, it was like I had a resume, you know. I had a full acting resume, and I was ready to rock and roll. And just pretty soon thereafter, it was an open call for Friday the 13th, and everybody in New York showed up for it. Seriously, everybody under the age of 30 showed up for it, and it was basically the summer of 1979 was casting and callbacks, and then more callbacks, and pairing up the guys with the girls, and it wasn't until the last, I would say that was already a month into summer, into August, mid-August, when I was down to like final 5 girls for Alice, and we all screen tested it, and I always say, I think I got it on my screen. But he had us, Sean was there, and he's directing, and he's like, okay, you see a dead body coming down from a tree, react, so it was that kind of thing. It was really a fun audition, but I remember actually crawling on the floor, and and it was not swept, so it was gross. But it was memorable, and I think it was later that afternoon, I got a call from Sean going, you're my Alice, and I went, yes. So,
Maybe the crawling on the floor helped.
I think
because you're shooting outside, in the dirt.
Right, she's not afraid. And
Right.
Fearless.
Fearless of the dirt.
Until Betsy Palmer shows up. It's like, oh my God, she scared me. The director kept us apart on purpose because he knew we would bond. And we did. Later, when we were reunited for the first time, which was 24 years later, maybe.
Wow.
1984, I think that's the right math. Could be longer. It's okay. You know, when the left side of the brain takes over the right. Or vice versa.
Numbers are hard.
Yes.
Well, for me. My sister's a brainiac.
Me too. Bad with numbers.
Yeah.
No, give me a paintbrush, I'm good. As long as I don't have to count.
Adrienne, I would love to know, do you have any onset memories, like favorite memories that just makes you go, oh?
Oh, let me think. Well, I don't know if it makes it like this, but I was invited to watch the Kevin Bacon scene with the arrow. And I can actually there is a part that you could go, oh, because before Friday the 13th, the last horror movie I'd seen was The Exorcist. And being raised Catholic, it just did it for me, you know. It was, and I had a boyfriend at the time who went to Georgetown University, so I knew everything about it, and it was those steps, and it was like all that. And now I look back at it, and the special effects are kind of laughable, but back then they totally did me in.
That movie wasn't about the effects, it was about the story.
Right. Well, it all helps, right? It all helps, but I mean,
When you're from a religious background.
yeah, it's true. It's what you do in here that makes it the scary part. So about day 3, 4 into it, Tom Savini invited me into his studio, which was right on the beach, where we do the photo ops for the Crystal Lake tours now, but it's not there anymore, but it was his little studio. And I got to see the magic of Tom Savini and how the special effects were done. And it took all the fear out of it for me, which is good and bad, you know, because I watch horror movies from that point, you know, that scrutinizing artistic point of, CGI effects. You know,
no,
what a joke,
no.
right? No.
No.
So it was so fabulous to actually see how everything was progressing that when they were going to do the arrow through the net, I said to Tom, "You think Sean will let me in there?" He goes, "Go ask him." So I said, "Sean, can I come? Can you please?" And so they let me lay down in the corner, watch the whole thing. And oh my God, I mean, seriously, when you do that, I was clutching, because obviously I couldn't make a sound, but clutching my chest as I'm watching this happen, because I see in front of my eyes, the whole thing is kind of backing up and gurgling, and it's like, then he's, you know, trying to get it up through the thing. And little did I know it would be cinema history that I was actually witnessing there, but oh my God, I still, to this day, remember how intense that whole thing was, because you know, it's like everything else. We were so limited on funds and film, and if we needed more, poor Sean had to go begging his investors, which, you know, took a couple of days, and you know, the whole thing. So we had to get it right. Like, if not on the first shot, you better get it right on the second. And it's so, like, they pulled it off. And otherwise you'd have to go back to the drawing board and lose time. Time is money, and so, you know.
More effects, more money too, like,
Right.
gotta build something else now.
Exactly. So that was amazing. That was an amazing day for me personally. The other thing I love is, except for the fact that the snake actually did get killed, was that scene. I love the scene because it was so much improv and and silly, very silly. But you could just see how each actor just had such a great comedic sense. They were so natural, and we all worked off of each other so well. And the wonderful thing about acting is reacting, and you don't act, you know, that's the whole key, is that if you're acting, you're in bad shape. So basically you're reacting, and so it was just such joy, because you're working off people who really know their craft, and you know what they're doing, and that was the thing with Betsy. Oh my God, I always say she brought legendary, and she brought my game all the way up. It's like playing, you know, with you know, the best tennis player. Your game's gonna get better. And oh my God, I still think about when she looks up and leans on the doorway, and I swear to God, the hairs on the back of my neck just stood up and my voice really cracked. You know, and you can't fake a cracked voice, but that's what she did for me. It was all reacting to her. She was so monumental as an actress. And such a giving actor. I mean, so giving, because, you know, it's like I've worked with people who haven't done a lot of film work, and even though I had a ton of experience, you know, actually being the star of the film is a big deal when it's your first, you know. But she was very giving to me, and Sean was an amazing director because he actually let me watch my own dailies, which is kind of unheard of, but it was actually entertainment at camp for the night too. So I got to learn a lot by just seeing what came back from. It's not like you could do video playback. You had to wait for the film to actually come back to the, and so continuing on that thought, when we actually did get the final day of the canoe shot done in the water, it was October 12th on Friday. I have my date book still. I have everything from because I never thought it was going to be released. I thought we were going to run out of money and we'd never have enough money to finish post-production. So I was going to make a collage with all the stuff I have. That's it, all got thrown in a box and never had to open it until I moved. You know, it's like, found
The
all
things
these
you find
I
when you
know
move.
things. I found my grandmother's ring that I always show everybody that she
wow.
gave me. She gave me it before the first movie and said, "This will bring you good luck," and God knows. Thank you, Nana.
Yeah.
You know, it's in part 2, and if anyone has seen Jason Rising, anybody seen Jason Rising?
I did.
Not yet, I so want to.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, so take a look, and that's all I can tell you. Just, you'll enjoy it, I think. We'll see. You let me know if you enjoy it. How's that?
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Exactly.
No spoilers, it's a lot of fun. You'll have a good time.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So getting that last shot in the lake was definitely a challenge. It took 3 different times, 3 different early mornings before the sun rose, of getting out into the lake, setting it up, and they went out before I did. And the first time we did it, it was nice and warm. It was beautiful. It was no problems. And remember, we are low budget here. And so we saw the dailies, and Sean and Tommy both said, you know what, not exactly what, we can make this better. We can make, so it's just one camera, Ari coming up, Jason coming up, pulling Alice in. But they said we need it from 2 angles, at least 2 angles. So we need another camera. Investors, money.
Yes.
So it took another week or 2 to get the second camera, and they set it up another early morning. A little colder by then, you know, thinking end of September by then. Looks good, but they have a vision in their mind, and I don't know what it is, you know, but they do. And so they said, no, we need a 3rd camera. We need a slow motion camera. And so there we go. We have, go back to the investors. Took a while, so it's the last day of the shoot. And lo and behold, it's chilly out there and there's no money for wetsuits or anything. But when I think about it, it would have ruined everything. It all happened the way it was supposed to happen because you would have seen what's with it. So anyway, it's October 12th, and I'm sitting in the camp kitchen on the warming tray, literally warming my buns in the camp kitchen because it is cold out there. And I remember the Good Morning Blairstown on the radio going, it's a chilly one this morning, it's 38 degrees out there. And Tom and Savini and Ari and Sean and everybody are already in the water setting up while I'm warming my buns. And we only have 1 change of clothing. 1 other change of clothing. And so there I go, trotting down, ready, and I know pressure is on because we have the light situation, has to be the perfect light, and as you know, they did achieve that. But the first time when he comes up, I go at a camera range. So it was good except for the fact that camera didn't catch it, and oh my God, this means they have to dry me off very, very quickly behind the bushes. They had a lawn plug with a hair blower, I remember, and they had a big old garbage can with a fire going, you know what I mean? It was like so funny when I think back to it. And okay, get into the second change of clothes, and when I tell you, it was like so much going on, so much activity, and at that moment I realized my training really kicked in. Because I was able to block out everything, and it's just like, okay, I forgot how cold that water was for that moment. And and needless to say, we got what they were looking for. But here's the kicker. We didn't know it when we left the beach that day because it was filmed. It's not like we could have checked the video. So we literally left not knowing if we had a finished movie. And that's what I mean about I saved everything, all the continuity, Polaroids, everything, because I said, well, I can always make a collage, and that's
There was this
One time where I made this movie, and there you
right,
go.
exactly. And needless to say, never needed to open that box. Yeah. So 2 weeks later, we drove. They saw it. I didn't see what they had, but they saw it a couple of days later, and I guess they realized they needed that little tag at the end for sequel, so that was quickly, they added that, and that was 2 weeks later, and up in Connecticut, 1 day shoot, and that was it, and I never, let's see, it was late January that I finally got to see the movie in a screening, a tiny little screening before they sold it. They were trying to sell it to the distributors, and so they put in this little, like maybe there's 12 seats. So I have to tell you, my mom came into this, it must have been a Wednesday, matinee day in New York City. And so my mom, I said, I'm going to see Sean invited me to see the movie, you want to come? She goes, okay, not a big horror fan. Her vision is me doing Desdemona on stage of the actress, right? And it's like, so I have this mother sitting next to me who's not exactly thrilled. It's strip monopoly, and it's like, and then we get to the point where, and it's freezing outside, so right? So and Sean's in the back, and we're in like the second row, and Sean's in the back with some people, and my mother, and we get to the point where, okay, oh my God, cut off somebody's head. Jeez, what have I raised here? And she's ready to put on her coat as I'm in the canoe, and it's like, shh, quiet, stay there. She's like, shh. Well, Ari comes up, my mother goes up. 20 feet at least. I swear she screamed louder than I've ever heard. And I finally figured out where I got my scream jeans from. And I turn around, and sure enough, there is Sean shaking hands with, I later found out, Mr. Paramount and Mr. Warner's in the same room at the same time. And they both wanted it, which is why the rights are split. And Paramount got North America, and Warner Brothers got the rest of the world. So I always say my mom had, even though she hates to admit it, she might have had something to do with helping sell that film very quickly.
I got one more question, then we'll open it up to the audience. And that is, what does it take to make a good final girl?
Oh, well, first things first, you have to really want to live. You have to really want to live, because we all know Alice was not much of a warrior. And she gave that Mrs. Voorhees many times. Like, how many times are you going to give a killer a chance, right? Kick her head, check, she still did. It's like, really, you got to live. All right, so you got to want to live. Then you got to fight with all your might. And you gotta say, nothing's gonna take me down. And inevitably, in this room, I can say one thing: we are all survivors. Each one of us has gone through something that tried to take us down. And the reason we're still here, you wanna live, you wanna fight, you wanna live, you wanna do something in this world, you wanna have fun, you want to enjoy life, and you do whatever it takes. And I always say we're all survivors. It's just a matter of where it hits you in your life, how you come back from it, whether you tiptoe slowly like I did, I tiptoed back into the world, or whether you come back with gusto and say, you are not gonna take me down. You know, it's just a matter of really having the resilience and finding it deep down in yourself, because it's there. And I talk to people who need some talking to sometimes to remind you that we all have fight in us. And if it's that last moment when you're looking into the dark and the abyss, and you go, I don't know. I'm here to tell you 40 years later, 42 years later, after what I went through, I am such a happy camper, and there were times when I didn't know if I was going to make it to the next day. So I'm here to tell you, it's worth waiting, and it will get better. I promise you that, and it takes time. Don't expect it to happen overnight. If you need to heal, and it takes time, you give yourself that time it needs to heal, because it's different for every single person. And I often used to wonder why did I have a stalker? Why did that all happen, you know? If it's all of that, I look back now going, it's actually, it made me into a whole person. It gave me the compassion that I need to see in other people sometimes what they need, you know? And it kind of gives me purpose now. I feel like it was all worthwhile. And I think out of whatever pain you've gone through or whatever suffering, if you can find some sort of positive, and there's always a note somewhere, if you look hard enough you can find it, of positivity in whatever you went through. And you can, out of that, you can build a life again. Little by tiny little bits, and it will come together. And I'm positive proof, I'm telling you. Yeah, so this is to anybody that's having a rough time, hang in there. And if you ever need to reach out, I do respond. Oh, yeah. I appreciate that. And guys, I want you to know, you are the reason I am fully healed too. It was that convention in Chiller in 2004 that I came back for. I didn't even know I had a fan base. It was Peter Bradke from Crystal Lake Memories who said, you have 3 generations of fans around the world. You gotta let them know what happened to you. And it's like, really? And he goes, no, really, you need to let them know. And when we had the panel, and it was my first convention, and Stacy, who's now my manager, God love her, she was the first fan to run up to me and go, are you Adrienne? And I went, yes. She goes, I'm your biggest fan. And now she's my manager. How do you love that? Talk about finding that nugget and going with it, right? But it was that show, I didn't even know to bring 8x10s. They had to run out to Kinko's. It was my first real convention. And the panel, Betsy was on the panel, I think Amy was there too, and there were a few of us. And somebody said, why did you, like the second question, why did you disappear? And of course, no one would know, because back then you didn't talk about that stuff. And no social media and whatever. So I just briefly shared a little bit of telling I had a stalker, and of course Betsy goes, you had a what? and poor Betsy suffered from, you know, they just gave her hell. So we bonded over that misery of what Friday the 13th brought to our, you know, front door. But it was when I explained to you all and the campers, my campers, because without you, I wouldn't be here. And I said to everyone in the audience, I didn't even know you were here. And I could hear sobbing. I could hear sobbing because everyone kind of shared in that pain with me. And I literally felt, and I've been through therapy, major therapy, I felt that last little piece of my heart heal that I didn't even know needed healing. So I thank you, because it's knowing that we're all a family and we care about each other and what we've been through, that brings the horror community, makes it so special. And it is why we are all so accepting of one another, I think, because we find that bond together, and you know, we're a family, I think, don't you? Very supportive, non-judgmental, always so happy to meet, you know, everyone that comes by. I mean, just so appreciative, and we're the ones who really are appreciative right back at you, because it's because of all of you that we're here. Some people forget that, but
But you know.
but we do know it's because of you guys, and hopefully the grumpy old men will get their act together and we'll get another sequel.
Uh-huh. Please?
Please, wouldn't that be nice? But yeah, so you want to open it up?
Yeah.
I got in here a few minutes late. I hope I'm not asking anything that you covered. I watched Jason Rising a couple of days ago, and you were great. It was excellent. Is there another fan film that you've done, or?
No, that would be it. Originally, Deborah Voorhees, who did Fanboy 13, we were talking in Idaho. I had a Trailblazer Award in Idaho at the only film festival run totally by women. In Boise, yeah, and met up with Deborah there, and we were discussing it, and I told her I would be very interested in reading the script, and when I read the script, it was way too close to home for me, and like I said to her, I said, I spent way too much money in therapy to go open that box again, and so I opted out, but I had told, I wanted to support her and everything, but yeah, no, every so often I'll get a script, a fan film, and
That's all we can get.
yeah,
That's it.
yeah, and I really liked Never Hike Alone. Did you see that one?
Yeah.
I liked that. I thought some of the Finley DeSantis' work was very good in there. And then I knew a director up in Portland named James Sweet, who I've seen a lot of his work, and I'm very close, which doesn't hurt, being in the same state. And they worked on the script until I read it and went, yeah, I think this is gonna work. I think this will work, and no spoilers. You check it out and see if it works. But I'm always happy to support a good, independent film with passionate people, because it's where I grew up,
That's what Friday was.
Right,
Right?
exactly. Just a whole bunch of purely passionate, talented people, and when they all get together, magic happens. Of course, Friday the 13th was the perfect storm, but everyone can, hope to achieve it. And I gotta tell you, the fan films are getting better and better. We're getting a lot of talented people out there, and hopefully, it'll all come back to us, and we'll all get our part 13. I wrap things up at least, I mean, not forever, but at least for now, It's like, come on, in the next, Alice only has how much more time before she's in a wheelchair,
Never.
No, I'm teasing, but, knock on wood, geez, that's not tempting any fates, sorry. But literally, do you remember when they were trying to get the final girls together for a film and everything? I used to joke, I said, by the time they figure it out, all our final girls are gonna be in a wheelchair, It's gonna be dueling each other with.
Kane.
And if I missed it, I'm sorry, but I remember hearing a story about you being a bigger part of part 2, instead of being killed off earlier. Was there a story to that?
Not that I'm aware of, because that was here's the story behind part 2. I had a stalker, period. I had enough to worry about in my own world, just basically surviving. There were no stalking laws back there. There were no video cameras, they were just coming around. There were no cell phones. What else? Since there were no laws, the cops and the FBI, they weren't gonna do anything until you were physically assaulted.
Didn't you say last time I talked to you in Atlanta that when you went to talk to somebody about it, like the authorities, you're like, well, you did that movie, no wonder.
Yeah, no,
Right?
it's like, what did you expect? You do a movie like that, what did you expect? It's like, no, it wasn't porn. It was a horror film, and I kept all my clothes on. So there. Yeah, it was, I was worrying about, like, I would get Polaroids under my door of what I'd been doing the day before, the night before. That's enough to keep you locked up in your apartment, you know? And I had bars from the inside on my dad installed for me, but no one was paying attention, and I was on my own, and so I left it up to everybody else to figure things out, and that's what I ended up with, and no script. So unbeknownst to me, I go up there for, and the movie's already finished. I had no clue what was going on, no script, nothing. It was like,
Do you still stay in touch with Kevin Bacon?
I ran into Kevin, we didn't run into him, it was more than that. Kansas City Mo, he was there with his brother and his band, the Bacon Brothers. And you know that scene in Almost Famous where the bus is pulling out and the girl whacks her head on a wall? Okay, so imagine that scene like 5 minutes before that. Stacy wanted to see Kevin desperately, and he was up there, and so we got somebody to drive us up there, and we emailed each other, and he goes, well, we're moving on to whatever city. He goes, I'll hang out for as long as I can. Literally we got there, and the bus was like starting to pull out, I guess, and he and his brother weren't on it yet, and one of the people at the casino, one of the security guys goes running back. At first they like chasing us out, and it's like, what are you doing here? The show's all over. And then he looks at me and goes, whoa, I saw you last night with my mother. We watched you last night. He goes, I'll go check if he's still here. So he goes running, and sure enough, he was still there, and he came down, and we hung out for about 10 minutes, and everybody got their photos, and so everybody was happy, and I found out Pinot Noir was his favorite, so I have Campfire Pinot Noir, so sent him a case, and he told me he was a very happy camper, and he Carol loved their Pinot, yeah.
In the beginning of part 2, how many takes did it take for, because you pretty much improvised that whole scene, right?
I did. I improvised the entire scene because nobody wrote it down for me. One take. One take, they got a flesh wound. No, it took 2 takes because the first time, the retractable ice pick did not retract. Talk about checking, and recently we've had that whole thing. So yeah, check your own props, guys, because they don't always work. And the prop master, along with everyone else, basically, except Steve Meyer, was gone. I mean, it was a skeleton crew. I think I always say the coffee delivery guy was the Jason that night with the ice pick. That's how bad it was. And first time, he got me right there. Didn't retract, so they had to aim for the hole in my face on the second try. And so that was the end of Alice, or was it?
Was in the canoe scene, was Jason like kneeling down on something, or was he treading water before he comes up and grabs you?
We were in a waist-high water now. You can see in some of the outtakes where Tom Savini's like up to his waist.
Okay.
So he had leverage, you know, from the sand or whatever. Yeah, and if you go to the Crystal Lake, the Boy Scouts open the place to the public now, and they have tours. Sometimes I'm there, sometimes I'm not. But they do such cool stuff, and they have it, the area all marked off now, and so you can see exactly where it was, and I'm not supposed to tell you because the newest thing they added was they actually, where it took place, they have a little machine now because they make so much money off the fans now. They put it all back into the camp, which is so cool, and they have little bubbles coming up like Jason's there. Have fun. They also rebuilt Alice's trading post. You know, the gutters Alice was repairing. By the way, do not hire that woman to repair your gutters. She does not know what she's doing. Yeah, they built Alice's trading post, rebuilt it, and it's huge. I mean, it's big, it's beautiful. And the fans are all responsible. Isn't that the coolest thing? It's a win-win. You know, they make money, and we relive our childhoods.
Who are the other actors you beat out for the role?
I don't know. I don't know. One girl had braids. I don't know. We were all just starting out, you know. I mean, I laugh when they say Sally Field turned it down. Yeah, right. Sally Field is going to do it. It's like, seriously, folks? No. They didn't have a huge talent pool, except for young fledgling young actors and actresses that they could, you know, kind of keep in the woods.
No one completely and totally established.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Time.
Get away with what we got away with.
What's the actual lake called that's out there?
It's called Sand Pond,
Okay.
and it's called Camp Nogi Bosco, which stands for, we all thought it was an Indian name when we first got there, North Bergen Boy Scouts. Nogi Bosco. Is that funny? Doesn't it sound
What's the
Indian?
name? Where is it?
It's in Blairstown, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, and it's, the town still looks the same, the Blairstown Diner, everybody embraces it. It's all like, you know, back when we made it, no one wanted us there, but now it's, you know, it's a cool place to visit. Yeah.
What would be your ideal ending for Alice?
Oh, well, no ending at all, I think. Painting in her studio, drinking fine wine.
And another one of our topics is fashion moment.
Fashion moment.
Do you have a fashion moment?
Do I have a fashion?
Yours or anyone's, it doesn't matter.
I hate Kelly Green plaid more than life itself. Oh my God. Oh my God. So I think the story behind that whole thing is, obviously I had no script, I had no wardrobe fitting or anything. And when like I said, I was just basically holding my own life together at the moment, at the time. But I said to Sean, whatever you guys need me to do, little did I think, I'm there for you. And he said, what's wrong? And I said, oh, it's just a private matter. Well, I think they thought I was pregnant, is all I could think, you know, and maybe they just figured I might show up with a big belly, and so why not make sure with a big old ugly fat jumper to put her in. Just the ugliest fashion. And you have to understand, I went to FIT. I am a fashionista. I mean, seriously, I worked for Julio and got him into women's wear daily in the late 70s. So I love my fashion. So it hurt me to put that on. It really hurt me, but I didn't have much of a choice. It was either that or nothing, I guess. You were okay. I'm not worried about you. It's just like, something really. Don't you want anything else?